Israel have cut off the head of the snake. But this snake is still biting because missiles are still being fired. And, and so I'm just kind of wondering, as I step back, if the head of the snake, the leadership, has been eliminated, who is now firing the missiles?
Exactly. So, we often tell our children just because you can do something, that doesn't mean you should actually do it. So it was clear that there was a window of opportunity. This is being reported in the New York Times, where Al Khamenei and many of his post Iranian leadership were all gathered. And so Israel and the U.S. saw that not as an opportunity to let that go forward, because in fact, it seems that they were discussing the negotiations, but that this was a one-time take them all out opportunity, and they decided to do that. Now, of course, unless there's a regime waiting in line, then you create chaos. So this isn't regime change, this is regime havoc. And what can be predicted, and many of us who remember the Afghanistan and Iraq wars, that you can see long-term chaos in the region because there is no plan. Trump and Hezek and Rubio have not said a single word about the day after. And what does that mean? Not just in Iran, but for the region and the rest of the world. And so that's where the kind of impunity that we've seen from this administration since Trump has been back in has long-term ramifications. So the ball falls, in my estimation, so there has to be some constraints. There has to be a balance. The separation of powers really should be there. We haven't seen that. And again, unless there's a constraint, we will see more of this kind of behavior.
But Dr. Carter, are we? The president said over the weekend that he was urging the Iranian people to rise up and take over their government. Certainly, this also in the wake of those tens of thousands, according to the reporting, of Iranian protesters who were killed back in January. Okay, let us assume that 40 or 50,000 people were actually killed by this regime, and that the head of the snake has been eliminated. Is this who's in charge of the country? Is this the Revolutionary Guard? Because forgive me for my ignorance and knowledge about this. But if the leadership has been eliminated, why not stop and wait and see what happens next? Let's have a ceasefire. We've had this action. The president put on Truth Social just this morning that Iran wants to negotiate, but it's too late.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the chaos that Dr. Hussein was talking about, because from most reports, it suggests that Ayatollah Khomeini may be gone, but they have created these sort of overlapping hierarchies of power, which is why bombs are still being launched, etc. And two things can be true at the same time. The Iranian people may have been tired of the Ayatollah, but also don't want bombs dropped on their children, right? And there has been no evidence that this is an effective way to achieve regime change or to even spur revolution. It is a great way to create a power vacuum and to continue unrest, right? So all of the peace that you were trying to bring, all of the alleged uh, diplomatic relations that you've been trying to establish, I mean, may not be seen for decades, because we know when we create vacuums of power, it is a free for all for whoever comes in there, whether that's the military, whether it's another party. It just does not lead to, we bomb it today and then we have peace tomorrow. That's not how this works. And I think this is why so many have been critical, not because people necessarily are sympathetic to Iran or how that government was functioning. But because this was sloppily done and doesn't seem to be any forethought for how we move forward. And if you have experts, which we have.
Fishboard. Ballerino Lololo. Aquanaut. Fishboard. Cocofanto elefanto. Trippi troppi troppa trippa. Job, 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 sahur. Job, 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 sahur. Giraffa celestre.